Hey, welcome back to youtube.com/snapbolt. My name is Max, and I'm here on Twitch TV/snapboltgames, and I got a Pioneer League for you. I'm stoked to jump into Pioneer after some bans. We got Inverter of Truth banned, Breach banned, Kethis banned, so pretty much the top decks out of Pioneer banned, and I was jamming this actually in Pioneer before the bans. And I think I actually only ran it through one league, but 4-1'd it. This deck felt pretty strong. This deck is basically just like blue-white control, and you're just playing Growth Spiral and Uro in the main deck, but it's got a lot of similar cards to blue-white. I kind of actually thought of the deck just because, as you can see right here, the name is Standard Bant. I've been playing a lot of Bant in Standard. I played Bant at the Pro Tour, and I was like, pretty much all these cards, and then some better ones, like Supreme Verdict and Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, are legal in Pioneer. So I kind of ported over like the Bant deck from Standard into Pioneer, and I think it's pretty good. Joel Rails is a cool addition. Let's see, let me pull this sideboard out, which actually started in the main at first, but I decided to move it over to the side just because it's a little awkward with Supreme Verdict, and I think you want to be on the main deck verdicts, especially with this type of build. But this card actually performed pretty well, but I'm trying it in the side. I think it's actually pretty nice because people are going to side out a lot of their removal, so bringing Joel Rail in a fair amount of matchups seems like it's going to be good. Plus, just like when Supreme Verdict's bad, it's nice to have something else to bring in. The deck's pretty straightforward. You have pretty much everything in the deck draws a card. Opt, Azorius Charm, Growth Spiral, Uro, Teferi, Narset, Teferi. Everything draws a card, and then there's some key interaction spells like Dobin's Veto, Sphere, Verdict. And I'm just trying out an Elspeth Conquers Death. I'm not sure about this one yet, but it seems good just bringing back all of our Planeswalkers and stuff. And then I'm also trying out the one Shark Typhoon because you draw so many cards with this deck and you make a lot of mana with Uro and Growth Spiral. I thought Typhoon would be a good way to just like, as you're drawing, hitting land drops, then you just can Typhoon and win. So that seems pretty sweet. Elspeth's Sun Champion, kind of a pet card of mine. Played this back when it was in Standard. I mean, that's pretty much the deck. I'll go over the sideboard in a second. I guess I'll just queue up for a Pioneer League, and then I'll go over the side. Been playing a fair amount of Pauper as well. Pioneer League, Standard Bant, let's go. Waypoints, free to play. And let's join a match. Sweet. Yeah, let me go over the sideboard real quick. So I'm on 4 Aether Gust, just because I wasn't the biggest fan of this card at first, but I've kind of come around on it, and that's because it's really good against mono red, but it's also good against stuff like that life gain might not be good against when you're just like up against green red aggro or mono green aggro. Just like even like ramp decks, Aether Gust can be very good against. So that's why I'm just really liking this card. Just really strong. Another Narset for control. Then we have actually a lot of sideboard for control when we were like taking these verdicts out. 3 Mysticals, 2 Veto, so we can go up to 4 Dobin's Veto, which is a lot. But I love this card too. Settle the Records when we want more Wraths, and a couple Soul Guide Lanterns. I had some Rest in Peace, but it's kind of awkward to board in Rest in Peace when you're like basically an Uro deck. So I'm trying the Lanterns, and we'll see how that goes. Alright, welcome to round 1. We're on the play against Epi Ricklaw. I mean, I have 26 land in the deck. I only need 1 more land to be able to play Narset, and if I hit 2, then I'm like off to the races. It's a little awkward to only have 2 lands, but I think I'm going to keep. I don't think we can roll this. We don't take damage from our lands right now. I'm just excited to see what we play against. Pioneer's kind of new. Game Trail, this might be Gruul aggro. Ooh. Green and red goblins with like Rum Gully, maybe? I'm not sure. Okay. Lumbering Falls is actually good. It's not a white source, but it's still a land we can put in. And I can just grow Spiral later against Foundry Street, Game Trail Mountain. There's no way they're going to interact with this Growth Spiral, so it doesn't. I can wait. Another Game Trail. I guess we're just up against goblins. Maybe it's like mono red goblin splash Grumgully. Okay, the Burning Tree. Maybe it's just a weird red aggro deck with green. And they're just playing Foundry Street to have another good one drop or something. We just need to draw white sources and we're like, good. Legion Loyalist. Wow. They're going aggro. Narset is not looking good at all, but it's okay. Are they going to attack with Legion Loyalist? No. They're holding back. Okay. Interesting. I mean, this just, again, looks like goblins to me, but just not sure. It has to be just be goblins with Burning Tree, right? Alright, where's a white source? White source? Okay, not a white source, but I can just play Narset plus tap land. It's not like the worst thing ever. And if I am able to like come back in this game and steal this one, I get 4 Aether Gust post board, which is nice. I'm just gonna minus. Verdict, okay, so they know about that. The mana's actually generally not too bad in this deck, just because the mana base is mostly duels, and then we have 2 of each basic and 4 Fabled Passage. So the mana base is actually pretty reasonable. I guess I could have played Teferi Master of Time there. I think playing Narset first is better. Okay, there's Snoop. It's interesting because they're like half goblin, half just like green-red cards. Interesting, interesting. I feel like we're heavily favored in this matchup overall, but we have to draw something. I mean, this is a lot of damage. They're gonna hit Narset for 3 and us for 3. This battalion, if 3 creatures attack, creatures you control gain first strike and trample, and can't be blocked by creature tokens. Okay. That clause, the token clause can actually be relevant, so I have to remember that. Okay, white source is good. So I'm at 14. And this makes other satyrs get +1/+1 in haste. It's a human shaman. So this is basically just a 2 mana 2/2 haste, and it'll have that triggered ability. So I have a couple options. I can basically play any of my planeswalkers. If I play Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, I have to tap. I have to take 2. It seems pretty good to me to play Teferi Master of Time, because I can play it and then I can loot. And then on their turn, if they send like everything at Teferi, I can loot again. And if they don't kill Teferi, I can loot 2 more times into another white source for Verdict. And if I have Verdict, I should be able to win the game. So I'm liking Teferi loot. Seems pretty straightforward to me. Kind of wanted to run 2 Teferi, but I ran the NATO over the second Teferi. I'm going to Teferi plus, not sure what I'm going to discard yet, probably Teferi Time Raveler. I think even 2 Verdicts is better than that. And I can, okay, there we go, that's good. Yeah, let's just discard that, play this tapped. And now I can just pass the turn. And then, if they send like everything at Teferi where I'm not going to be able to save it, I can just loot again. And if they attack me with everything, I have the option to phase out like their biggest guy. Okay, Prospector off the top. So they can kind of go off now if they keep hitting goblins, but I can always phase out the Foundry Street to save damage, because I am going to be able to Verdict 100% next turn. Okay, now they hit a land on top. Definitely the opponent with an interesting deck. There's the Golly that we knew about. It's a lot of damage. It's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So if I phase out a Foundry Street, I can survive. See what they. Hopefully they just attack pretty much like maximum stuff at Teferi. That'd be best case for me. Teferi, us. So it looks like they might just be sending one at Teferi in order, if I phase something out, then Teferi will die. Okay, so they get to discard a card at random. If they do, they draw 2 cards. So they can discard their last card and draw 2. I could have stopped this with a phase out earlier, but I don't even think I would want to do that. I'd rather gain 2 more life. Maybe I should have, though. Letting them draw is pretty bad. Wow. So Embercleave was the card on top after they drew? They drew 2 though, right? I only get to see 1? Or was one of them Mountain? Discard Stomping Ground, and then I think I only get to see 1 of the cards for some reason. Okay, let's just double check what everything's attacking. So they're threatening 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let me double check that. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so they are threatening lethal. So I just... the problem is if I phase something out, it's not going to die to Supreme Verdict, which is certainly annoying, but I don't think there's anything I can do about that. I think I still just phase out a Foundry Street. I think that's my best bet. I'm kind of getting wrecked here. Especially they have Embercleave in hand. Oh wow. Oh, now they can just Embercleave me, duh. So that was pretty impressive, but again, I think this matchup's reasonable for us. Now they just get to cast Embercleave and kill us. I just wasn't thinking about this because it's kind of hard to tell on Magic Online like what they reveal and if they actually drew it. And then I forgot they could cast it this turn with Skirk Prospector, but yeah, that's totally fine. All right, let's board these in. I think our bad cards are probably this, these. Teferi's actually does stop Embercleave, but overall it doesn't seem great. They can also just sack things to Skirk Prospector, which kind of is can be annoying. Narset's actually not that great as well. Droll Rail is not good with Verdict, but I still think it's good enough. Like, if I just T2 Droll Rail and then start drawing cards and making a bunch of guys, that can certainly be annoying for them. And then I could just have like 1 Teferi. Sure. I mean, quad Aether Gust. It's got to be good, right? Bunch of lands, bunch of Aether Gust, Uros. Opponent with a very interesting list. Okay, 0 lands, 2 Aether Gust, but can't cast anything. This is unfortunately going to be a keep in this matchup, I think. I think I want all these lands. And then I just leave Breeding Pool tapped, and then turn 2 I'll play Glacial into Growth Spiral. Need to just find Verdict, or Aether Gust would be nice, or like any 4-drop. Prospector, okay. Fabled Passage. Passage is fine. I'll probably just Growth Spiral in one of these shock lands, so I don't have to take damage. So I'm going to draw for Growth Spiral and for turn, and I have to draw something I can cast out of those two. Would be ideal. Game Trail, huh? Okay, Gallia, sure. Be really nice to have like the Azorius Charm here. Instead, we're just going to take 3. Just going to Spiral now so I can F6, because whatever. If they want to use Prospector later, that's fine. Alright, where's the Uro at? Uro Spiral. Alright, I'll play it now. Let's play Spiral. Just more tap lands. Not ideal. I can play a Fabled Passage to try to like represent something. I think it's better just to get these tap lands in without paying life. Supreme Verdict just seems so good in this matchup. Just our mana was bad in game 1, so we weren't able to cast it when we needed to. Now we just need to draw into one. On the mulligan, we'll have a turn 4 Teferi. Hopefully we draw Azorius Charm or Wrath, you know, or something. Oh, Clothis. That's a good one. It's good against Uro as well. Plus they can just turn that on. They're just like a weird mishmash of green-red cards. Really interesting. Alright, I think I can go Fetch, Island, then Opt, then Teferi. Because there could be something I want to cast instead of Teferi, and I think it's better to fetch first before opting. I think I'll just get Island, Opt, Bottom, more lands. I mean, I had 25 lands and I went up to 26 just because of Growth Spiral and Earl. You want a lot of lands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be really bad if they turn on Clothis, but I just don't want to have to minus target Clothis. Maybe I should. Maybe if I just buy enough time, because it's likely they're going to play 2 pips, right? They're at 5 devotion right now. And then this way they don't get to drain as well. I just lose my Teferi though. Like they have 4 cards in hand. If they have 2 lands and 2 spells, they still can likely get to 7 devotion. So I just have to do this, I think. Just sucks to not draw a card, but I think it's what I have to do. Keeps my life total high and helps prevent the Clothis for a couple turns, which potentially can buy us enough time. Maybe we find Uro. Maybe we find more Planeswalkers, Elspeth. Even Sharknado would be decent at this point. Also good to keep 1 land for Teferi Master of Time reasons. Fanatical Firebrand. It's just weird that they're like goblins and then they're just playing like Gallia also. I guess just because of like Burning Tree Gallia draws. I mean, they don't have satyrs. I guess it's just the triggered ability is good, and it's a 2-mana 2/2 haste. I mean, I guess the trigger ain't now. They draw a card and wow, they discard a Snoop. That's not good for me. Now they can just play Clothis again. So I need to draw a Verdict. Because they drew 2 off Gallia. Yeah, I mean, this card is good. It's just weird that they're like goblins and then they're playing non-goblin cards. Like now, if we just draw something like Aether Gust, it's just not going to be enough. If they have Clothis, which they should have, the opponent says, If they have Clothis, they should definitely play Clothis, because then even if I Wrath, then they have this Clothis sitting there. I just don't know why they wouldn't play Clothis. Maybe I'm supposed to keep Teferi as well, so I can just go like Teferi plus, if it survives, then plus again, then Verdict. It's a decent line. Okay. They're sacking Firebrand for mana. Interesting. And then Chandra. So they're just green-red mid-range with a Goblins package. I was looking at cards that were legal in Pioneer, and I saw Chandra, and I was like, damn, that card is very good. So this way they get Chandra and Clothis down. I mean, that's going to crush us. Don't really know how many outs we have from this point. Teferi. Okay. I think I go Fabled Passage, sack it, Teferi, bounce Clothis. Oh, I tapped wrong. I should have probably tapped a Hallowed Fountain. I don't know if it matters. Bounce this, draw. And if I draw Detention Sphere here, okay, draw land. I also thought of an alternate version of this deck where you're just like more focused on the ramp and maybe play some Nissas, and then you could even play like Hydroid Crisis. Just go like straight standard with it. Nissa's a good way to win as well. Alright, killing Teferi. I'm at 11. They have a Chandra. They have a Clothis in hand. If I draw Uro this turn, I can play Uro and flash it back, which might be enough to claw back in. The deck should also potentially just be 4 Uro, but they are like 60 tickets or something. Plus Chandra, reveal Stomping Ground. I go to 9. Alright. Clothis again. Got it. All I have is lands. Boundary sheet. Okay. Clothis is on. Settle the wreckage. Okay. That's a card. The Chandra's still at 6, but Settle is a card. I go down to 7. The downside is they don't need to commit any more cards to lethal, so they can just attack with the board as is. Fry, okay. Yeah, they're just pretty mid-rangey. Clothis, Chandra, Fry, and then just random green-red goblin creatures. Alright, let's let them Gallia first. They choose not to use Gallia. That's not great for me. Just go settle. Then we should be able to survive the turn, and we're just still relying on draw steps. I think the best draw is probably Uro. Still. The problem is, I guess I need to draw Uro into Detention Sphere for that Chandra. Because, I mean, I could draw Uro into Teferi potentially. Draw land. Alright. They can just go ult Chandra, play any spell. I mean, maybe they won't do that, but I think they will. Also, just added these 2 Lumbering Falls last minute. Just wanted to try them out. Really don't know if they're good. But I figured since I'm like playing so many lands, sometimes you get to situations like this where you have nothing to do, and if I had a Lumbering Falls like on board there, I could have, attacked Chandra and maybe survived. But now I'm just dead. GG's. Got wrecked by a weird green-red aggro deck, but Opponent's draws were good. They played good cards. Let's go round 2. That was not a good showing of the deck. I mean, we had mana problems game 1, and we just basically got run over. We mulliganed game 2, and then didn't really find like the cards we needed. We found a Wrath later, but just wasn't enough. We weren't able to like also just play Teferi and plus because the opponent had such a good board presence. We weren't able to like Wrath and then play Teferi. Yeah, so another way to build like a Bant shell in Pioneer, I was thinking like if you don't play Azorius Charm, don't play Teferi, and then you play some Nissas and maybe some more Typhoons, maybe some couple copies of Hydroid Crisis, and then you kind of go with like a bigger ramp strategy. That way, you could play like maybe 1 or 2 Teferi, but this is really good when you're playing cards like Veto, Charm, because then play Teferi, leave up Charm is like just such a good line. Alright, looks like opponent is not joining. Or placed back in the queue with higher priority. Who knows what that means? I don't think it is, honestly. I think it's just you're placed back in the queue. But it's just kind of funny. We also just didn't draw any gusts. I shouldn't say that. We drew 2 gusts in our opening 7 with 0 lands. So Uro is just such a good card. We didn't find that either. Alright. Round 2, we're against Santa Maria. They're on the play. Snap, keep the sand. Don't mind seeing this. We have a Charm and a Detention Sphere as interaction. And Rug Triumph, huh? Is this going to be Reclamation? I think I'll just lead this. I know I can't play Glacial next turn, but this is a for sure tapped land where nothing else is. Okay, Heart's Desire. Maybe this is just Rug midrange? Rug ramp? Interesting. It makes it seem like it's like a mono green deck because they played Lovestruck Beast Elvish Mystic, but then they have Rug Triome. How do you say it? Katira Triome? Ketria Triome? Okay. I think I do want to leave up Azorius Charm. So I guess I'll play this, pay 2 life, and pass. Might just cycle Charm. Looking like I want to just T4 Verdict this game. Maybe it's just like some other type of green-red deck. Oh, maybe it's, what's it called? Adventures. I think it probably is. Okay, that's fine. If they attack with Mystic, I suppose I just take. I don't think I care about that. I could put it on top, but I don't think I care about the 1 mana. Yeah, they can hit for 1. That's fine. I think I'll just cycle. Killing a human with an Azorius Charm, especially when they have another 1/1, is just not good. This would be much better if it was Growth Spiral, but it's what it is. Man. Draw's looking rough here. Let's just play this tapped and pass. Opponent doesn't have that much left. Like, maybe they can get to a Beanstalk at some point, but that's not even very good. If it's just like a 7 mana 7/7 even, that's just like fine for us. Probably just gonna Verdict next turn. Suppose using the Fabled Passage is likely better than playing one of these 2 lands. Take 1. This just looks like it's like some Adventures Brew to me. Lovestruck Beast, okay. Uro. Uro's nice. I think if I just Fabled Passage for for Forest and then Verdict right now, that leaves me in a pretty good spot to like Uro / Detention Sphere next turn, and I still kill a bunch of guys, get their board down, cut them off some mana, so still think that's good. I think I want Forest because I have Uro, don't want Plains, and I have an island in hand. I'm still able to cast Verdict even if I get Forest. What's up, Dan and Amy? You guys are just trying to talk to me. I don't know if you saw that first game, but it was pretty rough. Alright, opponent just not really doing anything. Possibility Storm. Okay, so they're adventure combos in like a rug shell. Okay. Well, I can just Detention Sphere this. So the combo is they have only like creatures in their deck, and then one spell they want to hit, and then if they cast an adventure, it's casting a spell, and then instead of casting that spell, it reveals cards till they hit another spell, and then they can win the game. I think they have Enter the Infinite to draw their library, and then they like do something stupid to get the win. I think then they cast like a 0/0 Ballista. They put like a Borborygmos back on top, and then they cast like a 0 mana Ballista, and then that finds the next creature in their library, which is now Borborygmos. They play it, then they throw all their lands at you. So if they have this in play and they untap, if they have any adventure creature in hand, they win. But I'll just Detention Sphere it here. And I can just Uro into Detention Sphere as well. So I can just go Island, and then I'll be able to flashback or escape. Oh wow, I forgot about the Possibility Storm. So I probably just lost because of that. I guess I'll just hit another Uro. I think that's my only creature, right? I forgot Possibility Storm is both sided. But yeah, my only creature in the deck is Uro, so I was guaranteed. So it was actually a pro play there. That was pretty funny. Okay, so I can put a land into play. I needed to actually Uro first also because otherwise I don't get an extra land to play Detention Sphere. And then I just revealed like a million cards from my deck. Doesn't really matter too much. Should maybe be, oh, then this doesn't hit, oh, this hits Sharknado? Oh man. Oh, Elspeth Conquers Death. So good. I just like, again, then thought this only worked on creatures. I think the only two hits were Sharknado and Elspeth Conquers Death other than Detention Sphere, right? For enchantments. Yeah, so it just hits a like card, but that was just a sick last minute include. Sweet. Then these cards all just go back in my deck. I think they just get shuffled back in, but whatever, I'm just gonna get rid of that. Sweet. And I can't escape this Uro yet, but maybe soon I'll be able to get there. Now, like any Planeswalker, it's just a good draw for me. If they have a land, they can play a Beanstalk Giant. I'm still not in a great spot, but that Possibility Storm was so funny. Okay, they just have nothing. There's Teferi. Awesome. Just yield to it. Okay. I'll just play Teferi. I could tuck the Brazen Borrower, but I think plussing is just better. I just want to draw cards. Azorius Charm, perfect. Now I can untap some lands. From Teferi. That possibility storm was so funny. Now I think I'm in a really good spot to win. It's just another Brazen Borrower. Why did they not want to cast like Petty Theft onto... Oh, because they're going to try to kill Teferi with double Brazen Borrower rather than bouncing it. And they don't want to bounce Elspeth Conquers Death. The thing is, if they just attack both at Teferi, I can just let Teferi die, and then my Elspeth Conquers Death brings it back. I kind of like just letting it die, I guess. I mean... Oh, okay, they're just attacking me. Okay, now I'll just charm one. That makes sense. They don't want to kill this because it would just come back from ECD. So now I just get to ECD my Uro and then keep going from there. Kind of did want to save Azorius Charm for this, but I think that's okay. I get to draw a bunch of cards this turn, make a bunch of extra land drops too. They just concede. Yeah, we were going to get to Uro, bring that back, draw a card, grow Spiral, put 2 more lands into play a land for turn, escape Uro plus Teferi. So we were going to get to see like 4 or 5 more cards that turn. We weren't really drawing anything, but I think we were still in a good position. We could even just tuck Beanstalk Giant if we want. So sweet. So this might just be Rug Adventures with the combo. Don't think I want Mystical Dispute actually. Settle the Wreckage is okay. Don't think I want Joel Rill because it's likely that they're going to have Bone Crusher Giant post board anyway. Veto is interesting. Kind of want to just like read Possibility Storm again. Let's see. A minute 45 yet left. It says whenever a player casts a spell from their hand, that player exiles it. Then exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a card that shares a card type with it. That player may cast that card without paying its mana cost. So if I bring in vetoes, I can counter adventures, and I can counter, like if they go Possibility Storm and I have veto, and they go like cast an adventure creature, that gets exiled, and then they flip till they cast Enter the Infinite, and then I can veto it. I think that seems reasonable to me. I mean, maybe 4 vetoes is bad versus a deck with like mostly creatures, but I think most of their creatures are going to be adventure creatures anyway, and I can veto the adventure side. So, seems okay. Teferi seems fine. Azorius Charm seems kind of like meh. I think it has a place, but I just don't know how great it is. I don't think I want Typhoon in this matchup. I think I want all the Wraths. Could just like cut an Opt or something as well. Maybe 4 vetoes is just too many. I think breaking up the combo and countering adventures is good though. I'll just try it. Might just be bad, but I think veto, I mean, counters most of their cards because they're going to cast a lot of adventures. I know they didn't that game and they just cast Borrowers, but I still think it's good. Aether Gust I think is going to be really nice. I'll lead on Fabled Passage for Island here. It's also kind of weird that they have Elvish Mystic. I don't know if they need that. And I'll just have Aether Gust up next turn. And then I can Gust something, then I can Teferi bounce something. And then I have Verdicts, I have Uros. I'm looking in a good spot. I just need to draw lands, but I'm going to have 26 lands. Also should potentially have like a Hinterland Harbor or 2. Take one, doesn't matter. Just no play. Could play this to like wrap other stuff, but I'd rather just take no damage. Maybe I'll draw like, I guess I could only draw Literal Forest to not take damage next turn, but whatever, I'll just play Plains. Then I don't have to shock anything in and telegraph that I have a 2-drop. Opponent plays Lovestruck Beast. Am I going to gust it? I think yes, but I can just gust it whenever at end of turn or on the stack. And then I can untap and play Teferi and then bounce their human. Then my Teferi is just like on an empty battlefield. I wonder if they're going to make a play. Stomp me. It is kind of weird to have 4 vetoes in the deck, but I think it's good. Maybe they'll even just like side out the combo. Just try to grind. I've seen this deck always built as just green-red Possibility Storm. It looks like they're taking an adventurous take on the deck. I mean, I wonder if they have Lucky Clover as well. I think if they don't, they should. I mean, are they just going blue for Brazibar? That makes sense. What other blue cards would they want? I wonder if they have Clothis as well. I guess would be no. This is kind of like a standard matchup in Pioneer. Opponent taking their time. If they go land Lovestruck Beast, I'm just going to gust. If they play any green or red 3-drop, I'm just going to gust. Because then again, I get to go Teferi bounce and then have a Teferi in play, which can really wreck their plan. I mean, Teferi Possibility Storm is just basically game, right? They can't cast any spells. I wasn't thinking about that at the time, but definitely don't want to side out Teferi for that reason. I'll take 1. Okay, they just don't attack and just don't do anything. They don't have a land. Okay, I still get to do my Teferi line. Because now if they're just leaving up like a Brazen Borrow, it just doesn't matter. Because Teferi is just so dumb. Not banned in Pioneer yet. Let's go. And I mean, I've been playing slow because I generally like lag a lot when I'm recording, but the opponent is playing like even slower than us. It's just such a big difference for me. I just love playing Magic Online when my opponent is just like playing super, super fast. But if they're like playing slow, it's just so brutal. I think I am going to go Teferi Bounce here over Uro, because bouncing a token is pretty good value. Again, then I can start ticking this up, untap with some Aether Gusts, and protect the Teferi. Maybe Verdict if I draw land. I can Earl later too. So, Temple Garden, pay 2 life, Teferi, bounce, and they can play a spell in response like a Stomp. They just concede to Teferi. Yeah, that's about right. They just didn't have lands there. Opponent's deck was actually pretty cool. I've seen the Possibility Storm decks. I don't think they're good just because you do have to have Possibility Storm plus an adventure creature. You can't have any other instant or sorceries in your deck, and then you have to like play a like you have to like play Possibility Storm. You either have more mana to play your adventure or untap with Possibility Storm and then do it. So it just like is pretty hard to assemble the combo. That was so funny on game 1. They possibility store my Uro and then exile it, cast Uro. And then I'm like, okay, I'll just Detention Sphere. Then I exile my Detention Sphere, hit ECD. It would have been funny if I had hit Sharknado and they didn't have the combo, and then I get to untap and start making sharks and then win that way. That would have been pretty sick. That's what I honestly thought was going to happen because I forgot I added this, but pretty funny. Yeah, I wonder if I feel like the version that I was talking about earlier with the 5-mana Nissa, the standard one, that doubles your mana for forests, is not going to be as good as this version because I think this card is just better than Nissa. Like, Teferi is so good. Another card that would be nice for this deck would be Jace Architect of Thought because it would keep the cards going. I might actually want more 4-drops if I'm playing Growth Spiral because going 2 to 4 is really nice. And right now I don't really have any good 4s except, I mean, I have Verdict, but that's not always a turn 3 play, you know? So it might be better to have more good 4-drop Planeswalkers. I can play Gideon Ally, I can play more Teferis, I can play Jace, Architect, so I have a lot of options. Just snap off this slow hand here. I mean, we can draw a Growth Spiral or an Azorius Charm, and if we don't, we have a lot of lands and powerful cards, so I don't think with a deck like this that you want to mulligan hands like this. I don't like to mulligan, so. We're against Mav 807. I'm just so interested in what people are playing in Pioneer these days. I keep 6. Breeding Pool. I have seen blue-green Wilderness Reclamation deck floating around, so maybe the opponent's on that. I'll just match them, and if it is, then Narset should be decent in this matchup. Looks like it is. Teferi is great. This feels like standard again. This deck is Standard Bant for a reason, right? Draw a card. Cycle something? Yeah. I'm pretty confident this is blue-green Reclamation. If that's the case, and they just pass with 3 mana open, do I play Teferi or Narset? I think I start with Narset. Okay, they have 2 mana open. Most of their counterspells I feel like cost 3. So maybe getting Teferi. Oh wow, that's such a good draw too. They could have main deck Mystical Dispute, but I don't think they will. I think resolving Teferi actually is just gonna really wreck them. So I'm gonna do it and try. What 2 mana counter could they have? They could have Negate. Looks like they do. Censor. Ah, damn. Of course they have the Censor. Should have played the Narset. I mean, Narset should still be pretty good. Oh, they don't crack Fabled Passage? Okay. They can go land and then crack Fabled Passage. Growth Spiral. Maybe they don't have a 4th land, so they didn't crack it because they're trying to draw one. It's kind of greedy if that's their line. Wow. That's pretty bad for them. Uro would be like really nice here because then I can go early, but Veto. No such luck. I think I just still want to get Narset down. Guess I'll play Island Narset. I mean, this will still be good because if they want to untap and draw a card to try to hit a land to play, they can't do that now. And if they untap and draw land and play like a Reclamation or something, I can try to kill it. I also have a Veto. These verdicts aren't looking great, but maybe I can find another Veto. Oh, Teferi is good. This card is just insane. I saw somebody post this the other day and it said this card should have read each opponent can cast spells only during their turn. That would have been so much more fair. It still would be way too good. Like the -3 should not say draw card also, but that's also just really what makes it broken. All right, this has got to be a reclamation. Yep. The good news is I can play Teferi with Veto backup. So I'm not that scared. I think I'd rather do that than play ECD. All right, I'll just start with Narset. Could Fabled Passage first. I don't know if it really matters. I think I'll take Teferi. Land, sack. Guess I'll get a forest for Uro. And then I'll just play Teferi with Veto up. They have to have double counterspell for this. Opt? Sure. Not going to veto that. That deck plays the 3-mana counterspell with cycling. So I wouldn't be surprised if they cast that here. Dig through time. I mean, I can just veto this. And they're at 3 cards in hand and a Wilderness Wreck against Teferi. Yeah, I'm just going to veto. I can even bounce Wilderness Reclamation if I want. I don't know if I need to. I mean, it literally doesn't do anything against Teferi. I think it's safer to bounce it. Because then if they want to replay it, they get even less mana. And then if I'm able to like untap with Teferi and I just get to ECD like a Reclamation that they play. Oh, the opponent said oops. They cycled Censor, but I guess they should have. Oh, they cycled Censor into Narset and then also didn't get to play Reclamation. So that was a pretty bad turn for the opponent. Forgot about Narset. This is also just so dumb. It is pretty hard to remember, honestly. Now they're going to cycle another Censor. Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. Alright, that's plus. Probably just going to play Teferi. This has to resolve because I have another Teferi out. Then I can plus and determine what land I need to play afterwards. Do I need to leave up Azorius Charm and opt, or would I rather just play a Lumbering Falls and get that down? I'm probably not activating this next turn anyway, so I suppose I'll just play this. And this way I can opt and draw with Azorius Charm. And then maybe we can find an Uro and win at some point. Reclamation is fine. Doesn't really do that much against Teferi. They can make a big shark, but that's fine if they want it, if that's what they want to do. Looks like they are going to make a shark here, or maybe they're going to charge Blast Zone. I guess they want to get Blast Zone up to 3. Kill these Planeswalkers. I can just ECD this Reclamation as well. Oh, they passed priority, so maybe they just don't want to do anything. They're just going to Vantress. Should be fine. All right, I actually cannot get Forest. I think I'll draw a card, then I'll opt. I don't honestly know if it matters. I don't know which one is better. And then I'll opt. These have to resolve because Teferi is pretty dumb. Bottom, Growth Spiral is fine. Another cycling. Draw, or plus draw. Verdict. Not good in this matchup. Just go Growth Spiral. Breeding Pool untapped. Yes. ECD. They can charge Blast Zone and kill these 3 mana planeswalkers. But the opponent's just so far behind at this point. Yep. This deck could also just play like 2 Field of Ruin or something, but I just don't know how good that is. As you saw, like in game 1, we lost due to mana issues, so I don't know if that's really where you want to be. And I can just weave up Azorius Charm and opt. So they can kill our planeswalkers here. They have to tap out. They have to take their whole turn to do that, basically. And then I just still have to Teferi and ECD out. Sure. Just probably going to draw a card with Azorius Charm. Okay, now they sack Blast Zone. Kill these 2. I'll draw a card. Could save the Azorius Charm and opt, but I don't think I'm really necessarily going to even need that. Oh, now I can just get back to Teferi with ECD. Sweet. I guess I could have done that anyway. I already had 1 Teferi Time Raveler in the yard. I'll plus this to start. And they just concede. See what we were going to be drawing over the next couple turns. Yeah. That would have been plenty. This deck does not win very fast. Okay, we get a lot of good sideboard for this matchup. Oh geez, do I even bring an Aether Gust? I don't think I do. I mean, they might have more creatures, and they might even be siding in some creatures. Like, they could certainly side in Nightpack Ambusher, or they might have Torrential Gearhulk. I think I just want to play kind of like this, and just be like a Joel Rail mid-range deck with counterspells and planeswalkers. Just wonder if I want a couple Aether Gusts. I feel like no. Also, I think these 2 cards are not that great. This is just hard to tap out for. It's hard to resolve unless I have to Teferi down. And then this, while it kills Wilderness Reclamation, on a lot of boards, it's just not going to hit anything. I think keeping the 1 Detention Sphere is fine. I'm worried that they're just going to have a bunch of creatures, like Brazen Borrowers and that sort of stuff, but I think I can just beat that type of game plan with all this. So I get to go up to 4 Veto, 3 Mystical Dispute. Just seems pretty nice in this matchup. The first league I played, I was just like Urling so hard, and now I'm just not even ever casting it. I'm just not really even finding it. But we'll get to some Uros. Soul Guide Lantern's also not great, but I think it is worth it. It's really good against Gearhulk. It's kind of annoying. It can slow down their dig through times. They might have more synergies that I can disrupt with it, so I think it's worthwhile. Sand is not great, obviously, but I'm going to keep. I think I will. I think my life total doesn't matter too much, so I think I will shock in to weave up Mystical. What am I shocking in? Hallowed Fountain or Breeding Pool? I guess Hallowed Fountain is better. Because then I can go Forest, Pass, Grow Spiral. It's also a really nice line to be able to Grow Spiral, put another land in, and then use that land to play the Mystical. This is just standard right here. 5 land, Grow Spiral, Mystical, Snapkeep. I don't know what I'm going to Mystical, but maybe a Grow Spiral or something. Hopefully this just looks like an opt. I mean, I'm sure the opponent has an idea that I could have Mystical Dispute. Sweet basics from the opponent. I'm just going to play Forest and pass. There's Opt. Alright, still just going to play Forest and pass because I can go Growth Spiral, put in Glacial Fortress, Opt. So I actually have a pretty decent line set up here. This was actually potentially wrong because if I didn't play Forest, I could have like Mysticaled this and then played Opt, but I think I'd rather just go Growth Spiral right now and then Mystical this. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to play my own Growth Spiral, put in a Glacial, and then Mystical their Growth Spiral. So I think they should have just played this on their turn. I mean, oops, maybe not, but I think this is better for me. I basically just get ahead. They can tap out for something like a Narset if they have that. But I think their deck is going to be mostly instants. Castle Vantress is actually pretty good in this matchup. Okay, Narset, interesting. So I think I like just try to play Growth Spiral right now. If it resolves, I can try to play Narset. If this doesn't resolve, I just get to play tap land and then leave up Opt. Sure. If this doesn't resolve, it's fine, but if it does, then I'm going to just go for Narset. I guess they could have Censor, so maybe that's not a good line. Interesting, so maybe I just play around Censor. They also took a long time. Yeah, I think I do play around Center. I think these Narsets are actually pretty valuable. So I can just go like Temple Garden tapped, Breeding Pool untapped. I could even play it tapped, but I think I want to just play around Censor indefinitely. And now I can just leave up 2 mana, pass, and then end of turn Opt, and then I can start Narsetting. I just feel like they have Censor. It's another card that this deck could run. At that point, we might as well just be blue-white control, though. Alright, go for Opt. If they pause here, they 100% have Censor. Okay, well they didn't, but I still think they have it. Teferi. Okay, I'm gonna go for Narset first for sure. If this gets countered, I'll probably just go for another Narset. This card is great in this matchup. It's nice that we have 3 in the 75. They could also have Mystical Dispute, I suppose. Dobin Veto? Not quite. There's a NATO, an Opt, and a Teferi. I think it's between NATO and Teferi. Wow, this Narset just resolved. Maybe they have a NATO here for 2. Is it better to take my own NATO? Then next turn I can go land pass with like 7 mana up and NATO for 5? Or is it better just to take Teferi and try to play it this turn? I think that is better. No, I'm just gonna take Teferi and then not play it because of Censor and Mystical and everything. I think it's better just to take it slow here. If they play a Shark for 2, that's beatable because then I can play Teferi next turn. Yeah, I think I like playing just around Censor as long as I can. Brazen Borrower? Yeah. Maybe I was supposed to go for Teferi there. Shocking. Interesting. We get to kill Narset. Still is fine. Still drew me a card. Wilderness Rack? Alright, I don't have a Veto. I don't have a Teferi in play. So if they just dig through time here, I mean, they can, but they don't want to. Okay, Joel Rail. Joel Rail is good. I guess I can go play Teferi first and see if that resolves. Do I want to shock? I don't think I need to. So I'm going to try to play Teferi. And then if that resolves, then I can for sure resolve Joel Rail. And then I can minus Teferi if I want, and then get a cat. Yeah. Can also just resolve Narset too if I want. I mean, this Reclamation plus Vantress is good, but I'm willing to let them have that if I'm just able to have Teferi in play. Mystical Dispute. This is why I should have played Breeding Pool to play around Dispute plus Censor. Just gonna pay. And second Dispute, okay. Could have also held a land because it's good to hold cards for Joel Rail sometimes, but I don't think we're really at that point in the game yet. I have 7 mana next turn, so I can go Joel Rail plus Teferi. They have 1 card in hand. Okay. If I draw a land, I can Teferi plus Narset as well. Teferi plus Joel Rail seems nice. This looks like a Scry with Vantress. Or a Shark. Just a massive Shark. Leave up 3 mana in case they draw a counterspell. Or is it a dig through time? They would have tapped 1 too many mana. They have 9 mana right now. If you build your deck with instants, this card literally just says double your mana every single turn. Yeah, NATO for 7. Okay. They have 1 card in hand. They didn't know what it was. Interesting. I did draw a land as well. I mean, this Joel Rail is actually not really doing anything. So what I can do is I can go Narset minus. Try to find some type of answer. If I don't, then I can Teferi minus on the Shark, and then I have Teferi and Narset that their Brazen Borrow has to try to deal with both. I don't have any verdicts in my deck, but I do have 2 more Teferi Time Ravelers. I have a Detention Sphere. I have some stuff. Let's minus this. There's a Veto, a Soul Guide Lantern. I think I just take Veto. Maybe I was supposed to play Teferi first to make sure I can resolve it around a Censor. Because if they just drew Censor, it's like so bad. Maybe they don't even have Censor in their deck anymore. So I think I just tuck their 7/7. It's kind of annoying, but I think the 7/7 can just kill me, and now their Brazen Borrow can still only kill 1 of my 2 Planeswalkers. They'll probably have to kill Hero of Dominaria. I think I just needed to deal with that Shark because I don't actually have that many answers for it in my deck. I get another Narset activation as well. And just find another Hero of Dominaria perhaps. Alright, scry 2 now. They'll get to untap with the Wreck. See if they top or bottom. 1 top, 1 bottom. Then they untap. They have a card they want to cast potentially, or they like to just float. Another scry. Just see 1 new cards. They're gonna go top, bottom, or top. It wouldn't make sense if they could have just messed up and they said, okay, now I don't want this other one. But that's unlikely. They put 2 on top. Okay. Soul Guide Lantern. It's actually decent with Joel Rail. I can make a guy. A cat, I should say. There's a Teferi Time Raveler. Seems great. Seems better than the other two cards. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to play Teferi first. And then I'm going to play Joel Rail. And then I'm going to minus Teferi. Probably target Brazen Borrower. And then I get to make a cat with Joel Rail. I can use this to win potentially. I think I do want to bounce this. They're not going to be able to cast it now, and if they cast it on their turn, I don't really care what they bounce. Uro, huh? I mean, Uro is good, but I think I can just play Uro next turn. So instead, I'm just going to go Soul Guide Lantern. I guess, like, getting one of their two disputes doesn't really matter. I could have gotten Growth Spiral as well. I don't think it matters too much. And then I'll just pass with Soul Guide Lantern activation and Veto up. It should be very good. They can only play spells during like sorcery speed, and then I have Veto. So if they just tap out for like a Brazen Borrower, that's fine. If they try to play Petty Theft, the Brazen Borrower Adventure, I can just veto that. So this is looking like it's over. Narset just pretty good. I just love playing these type of decks. This is basically just blue-white control. It's just like a little bit more tap out because you have Uro and more Planeswalkers. Cast Uro. That makes sense. So if they stacked these wrong, I could have. Wait, let's see. I can still Soul Guide Lantern to prevent them from escaping Uro. That does seem worthwhile. I mean, I don't get to draw a card, but it prevents like another Uro from coming back right now. I think I like it. Because if I let the Uro go to the graveyard, they have priority, and then they can just cast Uro. Or they can just escape Uro. So this is a Petty Theft. I'm just going to veto it. We know their last card's Brazen Borrower. Then they can scry with Wreck. Oh, they're just bouncing Cat? I still think I veto it because then it just kills their Brazen Borrower. And they have 0 cards left. Yeah. Sweet. I think that Soul Guide Lantern play was good. Otherwise, they just go escape Uro, and then they have this like Uro that's annoying to deal with. I mean, I was still going to cast Uro and escape it that turn. But I mean, I was just drawing lands. Alright, yeah. We had that. And we had Joel Rail going. Sweet. 2-1. Let's go. Trying to think if I want like any number of sensors. I also thought like, do I want to be more like blue-white control and have any number of like absorbs, and then just be like blue-white control with like these green cards also? Seems kind of weird, but I could also just be like blue-white control and not have Growth Spiral, but have Uro. It's like I might not need that many green sources for the double escape, but I think Growth Spiral is actually just fine. It allows you to like T3 Verdict, which is good in a lot of matchups. Alright, 2-1. Going into round 4, we're against Ram Zamella 7. I think we've been on the draw pretty much every time, right? I think we have been on the draw every round. Snap Mold, 0 lands. Keep this. Probably put back one of these verdicts. Like to keep a mix of everything. We don't know if verdict's going to be good yet. Then I'll just leave Temple Garden tapped. Narset's a good draw, especially against Steam Vents. Wonder if we're against Scissors. Doesn't look like it. Don't know what we're up against. This Veto might be good though. If they opt here, do I Veto? Probably not. Hopefully they try to play a non-creature spell on their turn 3. Okay, blue, white, red. Maybe this is like Fires of Invention. They don't have 80 cards though. Teferi. Okay. Snap Veto. And then I'm probably just going to snap play Narset over Uro. Even if I draw a land, I think Narset's just better. I can play Uro later, but I think getting this down just like will stop a lot of like annoying draw spells that the opponent's deck may have. Alright, well that's an easy decision. Take Charm over Charm. Next turn I can play Teferi or Uro. Alright, they can play another Teferi. Perfect. Okay. They didn't have a land as well. And they can't draw cards, so Narset doing her thing. I'll minus again. Oh man, it's tempting to take this Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. I mean, I think I should, right? I have a lot of lands in the deck. I don't think I really need to take like an Opt or an Azorius Charm. And I think getting Teferi down is better than Teferi. And I'll rephrase that. I think I should play Teferi Time Raveler because their deck could certainly have instants. So now neither of us can counter anything, but I think that's better for me because I'm the one with a Narset and I don't really have that many counterspells anyway. I've already used one of my vetoes. I'd rather just resolve my Hero of Dominaria and they're stuck on 3 lands. Next turn I can even draw an extra card potentially in order to get to this 5-Feri. I think just playing these Planeswalkers again was better than getting Uro into the yard. I can do that later. Uro in this deck is more just about accumulating like a big advantage over time, rather than trying to make sure you hit your extra land drop. That doesn't matter as much. Wow. Oh, this is just Niv Mizzet. Okay. That makes sense. Voice is actually fine. It's just something I can bounce with Teferi. And Narset just doing work here. Just gonna bounce this. Land. Uro. I can Uro, but is it better to play one of these cards because that increases my chance? I mean, I can also just play Teferi. I guess I'm just gonna settle for playing Teferi Master of Time. I mean, that's another card my opponent has to answer, and I can phase out a threat they play. If they go land Niv Mizzet, that's obviously gonna be bad. So no land, huh? But I do get to start looting, find more lands, and fuel this Uro escape with Teferi Master of Time. I think this deck should be on more Teferi Master of Times. Just this looting effect is really good with Uro. It finds what you need, and the phase out is actually huge. It can stop stuff like Sharknado. Meanwhile, they're Teferi at 7, but I don't think that matters too much. I can discard another Uro. I can discard the Supreme Verdict, which isn't very good. Don't know if I need Supreme Verdict. I could also just discard Growth Spiral. Maybe a Azorius Charm, especially into these 2 cards. Alright, sure. Plus... Can also just leave out NATO and then eat their voice. Let's loot. I mean, Verdict might be nice to have, especially if they nid-miss it a little bit later. I think I'll just discard a Growth Spiral at this point. So now am I playing Teferi, or do I leave a Cycle NATO? They're going to attack. I'll flash in NATO and block, and then my shark gets bounced. I think resolving Teferi is better than that. Plus, I get to untap lands. I can't really use them because they have Teferi Time Raveler, but there's 4 Teferis on the battlefield. If they go attack Narset, I'll probably just phase out Voice. Oh, this looks like a Niv Mizzet. Or Bring to Light. Attack Narset first. Yeah, I'll keep my Narset. It's gotta be a Niv Mizzet Reborn. Like 100%. Oh, Dreadbore Teferi. That's fine. Plus, sure. Okay, I'm getting to the point where I can almost like play a big enough shark to deal with their Time Raveler. It's plus, I think I'll also plus this Teferi. Draw a discard. Opt. Do I discard a land, a Growth Spiral, or an Opt? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I discard Opt. Then I can go Growth Spiral and play Teferi. I don't think I need to flashback Uro yet, or escape Uro yet. Pay 2 life, yes. Pay 2 life, yes. Just all the Teferis. It's got to be a good deck, right? If you just put all the Teferis you can into one deck. It's like so good. You can also tuck their Time Raveler that's on 8. I don't think it's really doing anything. Rather just draw more cards. And then eventually I'm going to have more mana and I can just then play a bigger NATO. Attacking Narset again. I think I'll phase out again. Teferi of Master of Time just doing work. Utter End the Teferi. Sure. Teferi at 9. You got it. I can play another Teferi. Alright, let's loot. Now we can probably start discarding lands. So actually maybe that was wrong because if I just play Uro now, they can just bounce it with their Teferi. Guess I'll start with Opt. I can also just now use this turn to play an end of turn NATO. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. So I can NATO for 6. I think I'll just start with Opt. Bottom. Fabled Passage, huh? Alright, just gonna play another Teferi. Do I tuck their Time Raveler? I don't think so. I think I just make them keep having answers to this Teferi. Could have played this Uro first, I suppose. And I suppose they can finally kill Narset with voice. But sure. Can also play a 1/1 shark to chump, but I don't think I even want to do that. Maybe it is worth. I think this Narset could be really stopping them. No, it's fine. They can finally get the Narset. I think next turn I'll probably plan on just, wow, another Dreadbore. Alright, let's try to loot into our other Veto. So that's all our hero of Dominaria is gone. A lot of value from the opponent's side. Yeah, probably going to plan on just, again, playing a huge NATO. Uro. Okay. Opponent's still on 5 mana. Their Teferi is on 9. Triome. Uro to the yard. They need another blue source in order to escape Uro, because they have green, green, blue right now. Plus Teferi to 10. And my turn. Alright, there's Uro. Start by looting. Guess just discard Fabled Passage. Play Fabled Passage. Sack it. Forest. Do I bounce voice? I think I'll draw a card, sure. Azorius Charm. Alright. Now I'm just going to play a huge NATO. So Teferi at 11. I can make a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can make a 7/7 shark. So they are going to be able to bounce this shark with Teferi. It's only spell, right? Yeah. If they, on their next turn. But then their Teferi's, oh, they just drew with Teferi. That's so good for me. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now I can make a big enough shark to kill Teferi Time Raveler. Yeah, that's good. And also loot with this Teferi. Okay, that's mana for Uro. But now I get to just make a big enough shark to kill Teferi. It's so good. NATO for 7. I draw. I'll loot. Just discard Glacial Fortress at this point. Detention Sphere is good as well. I think I'll save that though. Start by looting. I think I can even just discard an Uro. I think having extra lands is actually going to be good. Attack Teferi. And then I'll escape Uro. Guess I'll thin one card first. I wanted to wait as long as possible for this escape because I wanted to not get my Uro bounced by their Teferi that was already on board. Just exile cards that don't matter to start because we do have one copy of ECD. And then we draw, put a land into play. It's a good one actually. $22 cards left in library. Just play Uro. Choose an Ur to keep. I think this one is the one that won't die. Draw, put a land into play. Get a plains. Now we really have a ton of mana, so now we're ramping. And I can't really play instants into this voice. I don't think there's much else I can play this turn regardless. Just opt. Could have Azorius Charm drawn a card first. May want to give my creatures lifelink next turn. Alright, and pass. I have this Teferi activation up. Also got to watch my clock because I'm at 14 minutes, the opponent at 20. Another Teferi. Sure. I mean, I guess they can bounce Uro. Okay. You got it. At least I have this Lumbering Falls and I can play another one. If they attack Teferi, I'll just take the damage. I do really have to watch the number of cards in my library. I have to kill the opponent at some point soon. Self-incarried. It's mildly annoying, but not the end of the world. Still feeling pretty favored from this position. Should be able to find a way to win. Oh, ECD. It's a nice one. I think I have 3 verdicts left in the deck too. I don't have that many ways left to win, but I do have a lot of Uros. Opponent has Uro as well, though. But I have ECD. I should probably try to save the ECD for their Uro if I can. $17 cards left. I don't really have that many cards left in library. As I just keep looting. I can get rid of some of these verdicts. I think I'll just start by flashback Uro. Keep saying flashback. I know it's escape, but it feels better to me to say flashback. Exile 5 cards. Try not to use too much clock. Put a land into play. Don't have to sacrifice it. Tapped. Let's see. They could have a removal spell for this shark, so I think activating is actually better. Then they have to chump with Caryatid if they want to play a removal spell and save Teferi. I think I just attack both at Time Raveler, as bad as that sounds. Could also just ignore this and attack both at them. Maybe that's best. That puts them in kind of a rough spot, honestly. I think I am going to do that. I don't think I really care about this, actually. I think I can win before that. I have to just make a decision. They're going to get to Uro. I can ECD that, though. Alright, let's go. Let's just ignore this. Yeah, removal spell for Shark. So maybe this was wrong. $14 cards in the library. Just Uro. Keep this one, hope it's the right one. Okay, Narset's fine. Oh my god. it was on the right side earlier, and now I just like keep the wrong one. Okay. Magic Online, so dumb. Is there a way to tell which one is not being escaped? Now I probably lose. It's so bad. Really, really bad. So if opponent goes Uro, I just ECD it. 13 cards in library. Should have been an Uro in play here. Niv Reborn. Okay, well, I mean, I can go Supreme Verdict. But they get to draw a bunch of cards. They draw 3. Dreadbore, Uro, Nahiri. Dreadbore, Uro, Nahiri. Dreadbore this. I don't even think I want to loot. Yeah, I'll just not loot. It's just really annoying though, like those type of misclicks. I'll Verdict and then I'll Uro. Oh yeah, they get a voice token, whatever. Green, green, blue, blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. Don't have to sack it. I think Lumbering Falls attack Teferi, then they have to chump with Elemental. Or I can commit more to the board. I think I'm just going to commit more. Get my Narset down. Try to find the other Veto. Yep. And pass. 10 cards in library. But every time I attack with Uro, I have to draw a card. Which actually isn't too bad. Like next turn, I should be able to go ECD your Uro if they play it. And then they're just still not playing Uro? Interesting. I think they're going to try to get around and deck me. I think that's their plan. I do have a Veto that I got to keep in mind. I think I'll minus. Again, just trying to play fast. Alright, Teferi. Seems good. Teferi bounce their Elemental. Go down to 7 cards. I can't even play Veto into their Teferi Time Raveler. What is this? Bring to Light for Niv Mizzet? Okay. Oh, enter the God Eternals. Deal 4 damage to Uro? Sure. I can even just go Verdict right now. I don't even want to. I have 4 cards in library. Can't really draw any more cards. Let's just go Verdict. So again, I don't want to draw cards here. Could just pass, but I do need to do something. I should have plus Teferi because I could have bounced Elemental. Just trying to play fast. I don't think I care about Narset too much. Just activate. I did not play that turn that well. Trying to rush. Alright, chump. don't think I'm going to be able to win at this point. Especially if they go Uro here, I think. I do have good answers for that, but with 4 cards in library, I don't think I can win. I think the misclick on the Uro probably just cost me. I think this would be a totally different game if I had had that Uro back then, because I could have set up a good attack. Also, not killing their Teferi was bad, but I don't think that's really what's costing me. 4 cards left. Nahiri, sure. They're looting. They're at 25. Can't really draw any more cards. Okay, let's just go ECD. Also gotta play fast against the clock here. Exile this. They can just do this. I'm not sure if this is right. Probably is not. ECD, get this out of there. And then, oh, this was wrong too. And I can't even attack this turn. I have 2 cards left. Yeah, I'm just dead. Don't think I have any outs now. So all I can do is attack for 6 a couple times. That was wrong. I shouldn't have even had drawn with Teferi. Man, I think I just need to concede. I fucked that game up. That felt pretty bad. Now I'm like, it's gonna be tough to have enough time. It's the way it goes though. Let's see. Lantern seems good. They're gonna have at least like 3 Uros. I think Aether Gust is actually pretty good. Because you're gonna have a lot of green and red spells. Bring to Light, Abrupt Decay, Sylvan Caryatid, Nib Mizzet. Do I want Mystical Dispute? Maybe Aether Gust isn't good just because they also have like Teferis. Control Rails seem good. Maybe I don't need 4 Aether Gusts. Because even, maybe it's not good because even like Aether Gusting and Niv Mizzet often is not going to be that great. Yeah, I totally just like punted that game though. It's okay that it happens. I think cut a couple verdicts. Teferi is good, but we just had it out for so long that game it didn't matter. Oh, where's our Sun's Champion at? We did that to win. Zoria's Charm also seems pretty bad. Alright, I think I kind of like this. Having a couple verdicts is nice to like clean up after like a big Niv Mizzet or just to like wipe up their Caryatids. I think Teferi Master of Time is not great either. Is there anything I want like Aether Gust over? I can cut a couple ops just to have like more good cards in the deck. Cannot believe I lost that game. Alright. I think number one concern is just try to play fast through the lag. Because I have 7.5 minutes to win 2 games. So I'll try to play fast here. Could have opted there, but I'll just opt on turn 2. Woodland Cemetery, okay. I don't even think I'm going to play Soul Guide Lantern right now. I think I can top that. My girlfriend's playing with the dog and just like squealing over in the other room. She's having such a good time with the dog. Okay, they don't do anything. So I can't Growth Spiral plus Teferi, but I'll just play Teferi. I just didn't think they were going to have that many answers for all three of my Hero of Dominarias. I thought like the third one at least would stick, but they had Dreadbore, Dreadbore, Utter End. So that was rough. It's going to be Uro, Dreadbore. Pretty good. Spiral, land? Okay, land is good. Let's play this tapped. And nope, cannot cast Hero of Dominaria. I can just play this. I don't even know if this is, it might be better to hold it, but I can also just draw a card. Double Hero of Dominaria. We'll see if it gets there if they have a million more Dreadbores. It's alright. I also haven't like played this deck too much, so the inexperience kind of showed in that last grindy game. If I had more experience, I think I could have certainly won that. Tamiyo. Alright, resolves. So they can plus. So if I keep Soul Guide Lantern in play, I can stop the -3. There's Uro. That's annoying. Name Spring Delay, and they got it. Top 4 cards. Yeah, so they got a Bring Delay, right? Yeah, wow, they hit. They have a Rakdos' Return. So I don't think I can really draw with Soul Guide Lantern. I don't think I need to use it yet either. I can Teferi tuck the Tamiyo. Then I just have a Teferi in play and their Tamiyo is not in play. I think I like that. I think I'm getting another island here. Especially because if they have a removal spell for this, it's kind of nice to just get this out of here so they don't just get to keep plussing. I don't think they're going to be able to escape Uro. I can stop it with Soul Guide Lantern. I don't think there's any way they can put cards into the yard like without me having priority to use this. Now I can start drawing next turn. Questing Beast? Jesus, that's so bad. I've seen Questing Beast in that list before. I can't say I was really expecting it, but it's pretty good here. I have Detention Sphere for it, but obviously not great for me. I think I'll just keep Soul Guide in play. Veto. Veto's not bad. Let's just get this out of here. That deck just has like all really strong cards too. Yeah, I'd like to use the ability. Soul Guide up plus Veto up. Next turn I can play Teferi plus have Veto up. Oh Jesus, that's brutal. They still can't escape Uro right now. Better end the Detention Sphere. Okay. I think I'm going to have to exile their yard because I can't let them play Uro. They also have Bring to Light. I think I'm just dead. So I just take. I also can't win a whole another game, I don't think, in 5 minutes. Can Teferi tuck this? Earl's actually not bad. If I Teferi tuck this, they can bring to light for Nim, is it? That's going to be hard to beat, but I think that's my line. Then I try to Uro next turn. Also, if they just draw a couple cards and draw into that, it's going to be rough. Yeah, definitely not the best showing here, but still feel good about the list. Just need some more practice with it. I played this matchup actually once in the last league. I think it's close. Okay, just hard cast Nim, is it? Jeez. Scarab got Abrupt Decay, bring to light Teferi. So I think they have all these cards we know about in hand, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, let's draw. And I think I go for Uro. Gotta try to win fast. Okay, I'll just go for Joel Rail into Uro. It's not good, but it's kind of what I have. I think I'm just about to concede because, again, I don't think there's any way I can win this game and the next game, especially with their hand looking like that. Oh, I already drew an extra card, so that was a bad play. But that's okay. I think I'm just about ready to concede. Their hand is like bring to light, Abrupt Decay, Teferi, Scarab God. I'll just go to the next one. Let's save ourselves the trouble. GG's. First game, yeah, it was really disappointing because I just thought I was in such a commanding position, and I felt like I just threw it away. Opponent just basically sat there and did nothing for so long. But again, good learning experience, so I'll just do better next time. All right, 2-2 now. We're against Alfredo Tomes. Round 3. This hand looks good. Green source for Uro. We have Opt and Veto and a NATO. On the draw. So on the draw, 5 for 5, I think. Looks like we're against mono black. Hallowed Fountain, yes. I think I have to shock. Maybe I'll get lucky and I'll nab something like a whatever that aura is they play with this Veto. Go to 16. I need to opt into a verdict. Thoughtseize. Okay. We haven't really had just like the fluid like Uro draws yet. Wow, they take opt. It's kind of surprising. I don't think it's right for me to opt there. I'm just gonna play Glacial Pass. They know about Veto now, which makes it a lot worse. But I do get to play Uro next turn. And I can consider cycling NATO for 0. Because it gets another card in the yard and draws a card. But I don't think I want to do that. It's going to be a good chump blocker. Spawn is kind of annoying. Still don't think I want to cycle this for 0. I think I just want to Uro. Hey, bud. Dog just coming in to check on me like always. Alright, let's put this in tapped. Sacrifice the Uro and pass. Can Detention Sphere the spawn next turn. We're taking 6 down to 10. Okay. That's really good for us. Opponent with only 3 cards left, they're on 3 mana. Alright, there's no reason to not leave up Veto, I don't think. So I think I just tap like this, D-Sphere both of these. D-Sphere has been pretty impressive. I know it just died in the last game, but I think this card is actually pretty good. might want to try to get back to a second copy. When I originally brewed the deck, it had 2 copies. Rankle. It's not ideal. NATO should still be good because I can block the Rankle here. Alright, we'll just take. Can always respond to the trigger. They just do nothing with the trigger. They don't want to make us discard or anything. Okay. Let's opt bottom. Growth spiral. Another growth spiral. Not the ideal time for those. I think I just need to make a 4/4 shark here. They probably have even fatal push though. I don't think I can play around that. I mean, I could play this for a smaller one. Like, what if I play it for 1 and then leave up like Veto? I just don't think. I think I need to take the greedier line. And the push. Makes sense they would have push. Alright, just got ranched that game. Draw didn't really work out. Mono black did what it did. Alright, let's bring in Settle. Let's get these vetoes out of here. Narsets also aren't great. I think Soul Guide Lantern is good. It's kind of why I like Soul Guide Lantern over Rest in Peace, because Rest in Peace would stop my own arrows, but Soul Guide Lantern is like a good tool like in this matchup. So I think it is good. ECD, not great, but I think it's fine. I think it's good enough. I need to cut 1 more card if I want to bring in both Joel Rails. I know they're a little awkward with Verdict, but I think I still want them. Could cut a Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, or just an ECD. Or even a NATO. NATO might just be a little bit too slow. Teferi, Master of Time seems good. So I think the last cuts, yeah, NATO, Teferi, or ECD. I just think a lot of times they're not going to have a permanent that ECD is going to kill. A lot of their permanents just cost like 1 and 2 mana. And if I have ECD in my hand and they don't have one of those, it's going to be bad for me. Alright, I don't have a green source, but I'm going to keep this hand. Try to come back in this league. I mean, we're still doing alright. We're still 2-2 right now in the league. But this has not been the best showing for the deck. Okay, well that's good. I'll just pass. So I can turn 3 Verdict to this game if I want. Oh, another 1-drop would be cool for me. Awesome. Just Spiral so I can F6. And I can untap and Verdict. And then Soul Guide Lantern actually exiling their guys is actually going to be pretty good, I think. My hand looks solid. I'm at 16. Opponent does have a lot of cards, though. Okay, they can get my Uro. They do. Wow, Joel Rail. So I can go Joel Rail and then Azorius Charm draw, or I can just play Teferi. Playing Teferi doesn't really give it any protection. I can also, oh, I can do this. This is actually kind of sick. Because Dreadwonder can't come back for a little bit. Knight can't come back. So what I can do is go Joel Rail, play Soul Guide Lantern, exile Bloodchoke. Can't talk. exile Bloodsoaked Champion, and then draw with Soul Guide to trigger Joel Rail. Let's do it. Then this way I get to interact a little bit, make a 2/2. Then next turn, if I'm able to play Teferi plus and start going off with Teferi Joel Rail. By going off, I mean just making a 2/2 every turn, which is actually pretty good at this matchup. I guess I should have played Soul Guide Lantern first, because now if I have Fatal Push, I just get like fucking wrecked. But I got lucky. They might have just sided out all their Fatal Pushes, which is exactly why I like Joel Rail. Three mana. Okay. Still got plenty of value off that, and didn't kill the Teferi, which is nice. Just leave the cat back to be able to trade with the Mutavault potentially. Do I discard this Uro? Kind of like it because next turn I should be able to escape it. Exactly where you want to be versus mono black, just escaping Uro. Murderous Drive to the Teferi. Right, let's loot. And they just concede because they know I can get Uro back. Wow. That showed the power of our strategy there. Drawing the was it the green source, or it was the green source for the Growth Spiral for the T3 Verdict. I think there's just still a lot of things that ECD misses on. I think it's the worst out of like the 3 Teferi heroes and Sharknado. I think I'm fine not having that in my deck, especially on the draw. Obviously can't have Aether Gust or Mystical. Veto is not very good. Alright, I'll keep this hand. It's not great, but I have 2 Wraths, so I'm going to try it. Certainly a little bit awkward here. Growth Spiral was a great draw. Now if I can just draw lands, I can get to these Wraths on turn 3. Okay. Wonder what they take here. Do they take Growth Spiral or do they take Verdict? They can play around Settle, or they can try to. It's still going to be pretty good. They take Verdict, play another 1-drop. They have 3 cards in hand, but they already have a pretty decent board presence because their spells are so much cheaper than ours. Alright, pay 2 life. Now I can Growth Spiral into Opt. Are they going to pump Knight? No. They're going to play a Spawn. Okay. Growth Spiral. Oh, this is interesting. So if I put in Lumbering Falls, then I can untap and play Glacial Fortress Pass, and then I can just leave up Settle. So I think I have to do that. It's a little bit awkward because they can play around it, but then they can just attack with like 1 or 2 things, and I can choose to not cast Settle if they don't attack with enough. And then I can like do something else if I don't need to Settle. Worst case, if they go like another Thoughtseize, take Settle, then I just probably lose. But then in that situation, I can try to opt into another Wrath. And I'm relatively close to this Elspeth as well, which might be decent. Yep, this is worst case scenario. These games that I've lost against mono black just haven't felt particularly close. Okay, they're at 0 cards in hand. So if I untap and Verdict, that might just be enough. Taking 8 down to 4. All right, come on, Verdict. Bottom. Did bottom it, right? Yep. That's all I can do. And land. I think I'm dead, right? Because I can't draw a card into anything to save myself. I guess I'll try. Yeah, but I don't think I have any outs at this point. Just the Thoughtseize into Agonizing Remorse, take your wraths was just it. GG's. So again, not exactly the result I wanted. I don't think I played that well. I certainly misplayed against Niv Mizzet. Other than that, didn't play terrible. Kind of got ran over in the 2 losses against Mono Black, but that'll happen. And the game we won just felt like we crushed. The 2 wins we had in rounds 2 and 3, the deck felt really dominant. I think the deck is fine. I don't think we drew particularly well. I think Opt is still good in the deck. I think it should help it run a little bit smoother. We might want more 4-drops to go with these growth spirals. Like, I'm not sure what other powerful 4-drops we would want. But again, maybe another Teferi, Master of Time. Maybe a Jace Architect. Could even go down to 2 Teferi, Hero of Dominarias. Could cut the ECD. Could cut the NATO. NATO wasn't that good. Also, Sun Champion of the past was decent for me, but all these could potentially get cut, and I could play more 4-drops. Could even just play like something like Dream Trawler in the 6-drop slot. I could play even like something like Questing Beast, just like as a really good card. Not really sure. There's definitely like different directions you can take the deck. But anyway, this is youtube.com/snapbolt and twitch.tv/snapboltgames. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time.